Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mike from the James16 Group again, and I wanted to share again another sort of pre-market or pre-move analysis on the Euro Canadian here. So again, I woke up this morning and I'm going through Autochartist patterns. I'm scanning the markets as I do every day, and I'm looking for interesting things. So what I'm going to do here in this video again is sort of share for you, sort of different things that we can look for, combining some of the videos that I've already done. So this video is going to touch on price pivot zones again. It's going to touch on gaps, and we're going to sort of look at support and resistance and combining all these factors in to again start to develop a trade plan. Going through the markets this morning with Autochartist, I discovered the Euro Canadian support area. So again, that's designated by this blue line here as support. Now, Autochartist will tell you that, listen, price likes to drive towards these support and resistance points, right? So a good target area becomes this support and resistance point, and it's extremely accurate. And the reason why this is a good target area is because it's a strong area. So if we look at that support area as a price pivot zone flip, or we dive into why this is such a strong point, what you're really going to notice here is a price pivot zone. So we're going to see, look, we have resistance, 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 resistance flips to support, and then comes back and is looking to act as support again. So what I would actually do with an area like this, and what I want you guys to understand is how we spoke about price pivot zones. So when you look at a price pivot zone, or you look between that flip between resistance and support, or support and resistance, it can really help you hone in on the market and look for strong areas of support and resistance to trade. So I would actually extend this out to look like a zone like this, right? So once again, we have resistance, 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 resistance. Look what price does. Price breaks away, pulls back, turns to support. And then here's where things get interesting. So we're going to break down this entire area here and sort of game plan, well, what can we do around here? So if you look what happened, the pre-market here, we had a gap up, right? So the markets closed 5 p.m. Eastern, New York time. They opened 5 p.m. Eastern, New York time, and we have this gap up. Now, if you guys watched my video on the USD Norwegian bearish outside bar that I traded, I used a gap as a possible trade bias, directional trade bias. And I said, these gaps love to close. Price likes to close the gap. Sometimes it happens right away. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes a really long time. So we don't want to just blindly trade these gaps. We want to just sort of, again, take on the information here. So when I see this, right, I see this open gap that came really close to closing, but it hasn't yet. I'm going to have a directional bias to the downside. Right, so I'm going to say, okay, listen, Autochartist is saying price wants to drive towards the support line that they have on the chart, right? So let's look for opportunities to short into this gap close or trade this to this target area, right? So notice how this support line lines right up with the gap close, right? So we're understanding this as a larger price pivot zone, right? We're saying here's resistance, 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 flips to support. Price comes towards that support, then gaps away. The market would likely want to test this area before, say, moving higher. Or if the market can get under this area, moving lower. Right? So this is a pivotal point in this market. And I'm going to look for a few different things here. And you guys can do the same with me, and we can see if anything materializes. So first, it would be to look for reasons to short this market back towards this area. Right, so that's sort of opportunity number one. So when I look at that, what I'm looking at here basically is price at another price pivot zone. So look what price did here, right? We have a little bit of resistance here. Price breaks away, flips to support. Price breaks back down, and again turns to resistance, resistance, resistance. So this is, again, another strong area of support and resistance. So what I would do around here is start to look for price action bars or price action, some sort of sign to say, okay, maybe this will be the time we close the gap. And we didn't really have a whole lot going on here that would interest me. Again, something that would interest me here would be, say, price trying to break through and then finding an exhaustion point, closing back under, and then perhaps moving lower towards that gap. So trade situation number one for me is to watch this area here, look for price action bars. Again, we've spoken about a bunch of them. We've spoken about pin bars, and we've spoken about outside bars. So again, we're going to watch that area as trade number one. Now, it may just close from here, right? So it's finding a lot of resistance. We may just start to turn down. Some of you who again, depending on your style, might say, listen, I'm going to start to short around here. I'm going to stick a stop above this area, and I'm going to see if this resistance and support zone, this price pivot zone, can hold us down, and we can close that gap and target, again, that support area that Autochartist is telling us this is where price wants to drive to. Okay, so trade number two, or trade opportunity situation number two, would be to look for longs when price can close this gap and retest the support area, right? So we're looking at the support area now, understanding price action and understanding support and resistance, that again, this is a price pivot zone. So we know that the former resistance turned to support has a chance to once again hold as support here. Now, the way we do this, though, is again, we're going to layer on confluence. And these gap areas like to hold as support and resistance. When price closes these gaps, they often like to hold as support, right? So we have price gapping away. So when it closes the gap, it likes to hold as support. So that's a trade opportunity number two that I would look for here, is look for price to come down and close this gap. Maybe we'll get price action up here to close it. Maybe we won't. Again, like I said, some of you might choose to look to close it already. Within the James16 group, we have a variety of ways that people like to trade gaps, and some people like to sort of scale into them and then look for them to close. But I would also look for this support and resistance flip, or this support area that we know Autochartist is saying price wants to drive towards, and also look to play longs off of here. So when price comes down here and closes this gap, we can also look for reasons to get in long on this marketplace, because we're trading this support and resistance flip, right? So once again, we're going to look for this resistance, turns to support, look for that gap to close, hold as support, look for price action here, right? Something to confirm up once again. Listen, the market is saying yes, we should go long, and that could be price comes down and gives us a nice looking pin bar here. Looks something like this, closes the gap, closes above this area, and then we say, okay, now we can get back long into this market here, right? So that's trade opportunity number two. So far I'm looking for two things, right? We're looking for possibilities to close the gap, possibilities to go long around the gap, and then the final trade situation would be if price closes underneath this area again, right? So we could close this gap here, price could come straight down, start closing underneath this area, and then what is likely to happen, right? Again, think about your price pivot zone. Think about your support area, right? There's a chance that that area then holds as resistance, right? So instead of price holding as support there, when it starts to close back under this price pivot zone area, there's a chance that as price pulls back into that area, that's the area that wants to hold as resistance, right? So when we break it down, we're using this area, right? We're spotting it using Autochartist. We found this support area here, right? Then we're diving into it and saying, well, what is this area telling us, right? It's showing us a support and resistance price pivot zone flip. There's a gap at this area. This is an extreme area of importance. So all I'm doing as a trader then is breaking down and saying, well, what information do I have to work with? I have the price pivot zone. I have price boxing within this support and resistance flip and this top area here, right? So we can see price in this tight box of consolidation. Let's watch what price does around here. Or let's watch for exhaustions around here to close that gap and drive price down towards that area too. So again, I want to present to you guys a variety of videos, and there are going to be a lot of times where no trades materialize off this, and that's what you do as a trader, right? Your job is to find areas of interest, very important areas, or confluenced areas as we call them. Sit and wait for a trade opportunity that makes sense. We do not want to just trade blindly everything that pops up. Okay, that is the worst thing that you can do as a trader, because you're not going to be consistent that way, right? So we want to be disciplined, find these areas, use your Autochartist pattern recognition, right? Dive into those patterns that are spotted, find confluence, find reasons and things that you want to see the market do. Then when the market does it, you can execute your trade plan, and you're going to have a lot more confidence that way. So again, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this chart. We'll see if anything pops up, and we'll come back to it. So again, guys, would love to hear your feedback, and looking forward to doing more videos.